All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Sorry for the little delay. It's 8:45 a.m. September 19th, and let's see what this crazy market's doing. Let's get right into it. Let's go right into the SPY chart here. Waiting for my trusty marker doesn't wanna comply here. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Alrighty. All right. So SPY obviously huge gap down on Friday and couldn't close the gap at all in the SPY. Okay, we broke these lows and kind of had a weird session. Made new lows and then looked like we might drop farther. But then as the time went on, the shorts got squeezed, like I talked about on Friday morning. And a little different story in the Qs. You can see here we came down to here in SPY. But let's go over to the Qs. Let's look at that real quick. Okay, so in the Qs, actually was able to fill the gap. So a little different story, right? So we came down and we actually filled the gap in the Qs. So definite different story going on in the Qs. A little stronger rally at the end of the day. And let's see here. Let's look at today. It's just a crazy market, right? Especially with FOMC coming up on Wednesday. So lots of things going on, right? So let's look at TNX. So let's see TNX. Look at TNX. Woo! We made a new high. We opened with the new high, but now we're at 3.47. TNX is up 0.84%. So this thing is just a beast right now. This is probably pricing in Wednesday. The FOMC expected to get a 75% basis hike. 100% is a small probability. I don't see that really happening, but most likely 75 basis point hike. We have to see what the future holds, but these bonds are definitely pricing that in. Okay, 10-year. So this yield goes high, not good for tech stocks, not good for the market. Okay, let's look at SPY and a little bit of the volume profile here. Actually, let's look at this weeklies. Just wanted to see here. So just really quickly look at the weekly SPY. We bearish engulfed last week, the previous week. So this whole candle engulfed the previous week, right? I'm assuming the Qs would be the same. The Qs also bearish engulfing candle. Okay, that's just important to note. Let's look at the profile on the SPY. Very interesting here. So look at 381's the low, 381 and a half overnight. Okay, let's look at Qs. So Qs a little of a story, right? This low $285 and a half is very key. Okay, in the Qs, 285. A lot of support here. It's being held. Looks like we got a little maybe head and shoulders here. Shoulders, head, shoulder, neckline here. Could give us some farther move down. Okay. So keep that in mind, okay? As far as the cues for a destination lower, we're looking at 280 with this double bottom here. 280, SPY, looking at 380.54. Okay. Right now we're at 383. And right now in the cues, we're at 287. Okay. So 280, I wouldn't say that's a far away from today. So, okay. So let's look at the futures. Let's see. Let's recap a little bit what happened on Friday really quickly. Alrighty. That's crude. Actually, crude fell hard right now. It just showed that its demand level went down 1 million barrels per day, which is not good for crude. All right. So let's look at this. So obviously, this was Thursday session. Okay. And we I'm sorry, hold on a second. That was not Thursday session. Apologize for that. Let me get rid of that. All right. This was Thursday session. Okay, then the overnight happened. We gapped down, right? And then we opened here, went lower, and then closed up here. Okay? So that's what happened on Friday, right? And I think that push higher was just dealers and market makers, probably puts expiring, and they could buy back futures. I talked about that on Friday morning because you had quad witching on Friday. So a lot of options expiring that day. Okay. But in the ES, like I mentioned before, this turquoise box right here is the gap. And we couldn't even really get into it to close that at all. Okay, we couldn't close that gap, which is important market information, right? So now price is here. It is at 38.65. We're inside Friday's session. Okay. Now this, now we have kind of a little bit of a bracket setting up. We got highs here, lows here. Okay. Now we know FOMC is coming Wednesday. One or two things is going to happen. We're going to balance today and tomorrow into that session, or we might move a little bit lower. I don't know, right? I don't really know what's going to happen. However, because this doesn't tell us much, right? Yes, we're lower, right? We're about 0.66% lower. Okay. Majority of the volume's lower in the overnight. Okay. And we're about 80% net short. So everybody's short pretty much the majority of the session. So let's look at the composite profile, what I always point out, right? Let's just look at that for a second. So value is still here. This most traded price of the week is still 39.64. And I was talking about it on Friday that if we're going to make this move and really stick it to the bulls, and you want the bears to really get some confirmation, right? We need to start building out. So up here you have a lot of volume, right? But now we're starting to build volume here. Can we move this most traded price down here? And that very well could happen today if we stay down here. This will move. And that's just, you know, definitely a feather in a hat for the bears. Okay? Because you want to see value go down, right? Because if you can't sustain, build out value here, we're going to head back. I don't see that happening, but I'm saying that's how it works, right? So that's just the picture in the ES right now. I don't There's not a lot to glean from this now because we're inside the session of Friday. You know, I would say then this is the most traded price right here of the overnight. So if you're short here and you haven't covered your position yet, and we open up and we do that, the market's going to go higher. I'm not saying high like up here. I'm just saying it could go to the top of this range here. So that's something to look at. Let's look at the NQ. All right. Now on the NQ, similar situation, right? However, one big distinction right off the bat is the NQ has moved price in value lower. Most traded price of the last week now is 118.20 in the Nasdaq. So Nasdaq has pushed value lower already. Okay. Most traded price of the month in the Nasdaq is 121.25. That's right here. Okay. So sometimes you can call what's known as a ping pong effect between the most traded price of the month and the most traded price of the week. Sometimes you can hit in between these two, create a range. I'm not saying that happens. I'm just giving you most times what happens. This market is very volatile, very bearish right now. Okay. So we got weak highs up here. If we come back here, do we find resistance here again and come back down? That's something to look at. I didn't mention on the ES, but the same thing in the ES, okay? So inside session, here we go. Now, the one thing you note that here's was Thursday's lows. This was Friday's session. We closed the gap in the NQ, like I said earlier about the Qs. So the Nasdaq was a little stronger at the close. Okay. All that was taken back already. No surprise. Okay. So I don't have to go into too much detail about this because the Nasdaq's pricing in here is very similar to what's happening. Kind of got a little bracket here. Okay. And we could stay in the bracket or we could break it. So just keep that in mind. So before I get into the 60-minute charts with my levels and stuff like that, I want to just show you one thing, and the one chart that I love to show that shows monthly, weekly profiles with 4-hour candles, and just show everybody. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I'm gonna. So how I say is, notice how everything high volume nodes in these composite profiles, and high volume node just means the most volume traded, right? So we got here, which is 41.53 is the most traded price of the year. Okay. And these are just key nodes, right? And if you notice, I'll just make this circle more. Price came down to here. Now this most traded price of the month, which was 39.47. Okay, right here. So we went up to this price, down back to this price, right? So now where are we now, right? This is where I'm really showing you this chart. So we're down here. And if you look to the left, you can see right here, this is the most traded price. Let's see, that's July. That's 38.74. And right here, I'm going to draw this circle. That's the most traded price of July. Now look where we're at. Look what price is at right now. You see that? So these most traded prices always act as destinations. They're magnets. It's crazy, right? So 38.74.75 was the most traded price of July. That's where we are right now. That's where the range we are right now. That's why we stopped there. It's not a surprise. Okay? Not a surprise. Now you guys can't see it on my chart, which I apologize, because my main monitor that you guys look at is a 4K monitor. So everything that I show you, if I put it on a 4K monitor and made a 4K stream, anybody who does not have a 4K monitor, it would look like ants on a screen if you're on top of like Empire State Building. I wish everybody had 4K because everything would be so much clearer. I could show you my whole screen. So let me just tell you, 37.92.25 is the most traded price of June. That could be the next destination. Lower, 37.92.25 in the futures market. Okay, and that's this node here, right there. That could be our next stop. Just pointing that out. Okay. In the Nasdaq, the same thing. The same thing. So most traded price of the year was 121.27, right? You can see here with my highlighter, I'm going to highlight the most traded price of July. It's 118.88, and that's where we are right now. It's this node right here, this little pop of volume here. So pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Now the next node that you can't see is 117.50. That's the most traded price of June. So that could be the next destination we go to. Okay. That would be around here. Okay. We'll have to see, right? But that's how the market moves. It's not indisputable. I guess I just want to keep showing you guys. So I'll get rid of those. Hopefully that keeps making you guys understand why it's so important to look at those, because it really tells you where the market's going to go. In 1 second, I'm going to bring up the 60-minute futures charts in 1 second. All right. So I had this level of 38.54 down here. I had that level there, right? 38.54 was a key support here. Well, it got broken. Got broken, made another low. But now we're kind of finding some bids, kind of coming back, right? So our next level of resistance is 38.83.75, right? So we have 1, 2, 3 3 hours candles. That's found sellers there, okay? And there's also a tiny supply zone there. So I would expect sellers to come in there, okay? Now here's what I talked about earlier. The head and shoulders pattern, right? So we got the shoulder, we got a head, making another shoulder, and we got the neckline here. Could potentially breaks, we go lower. Okay, so another key resistance level is 39.03. So we have resistance, resistance. Okay. I don't know if we get there, but I'm just showing you that's another resistance level in the ES. Okay. Let's look over to the Qs. We're gonna have a similar story. Just give me one sec. Let me get the Qs. You guys are gonna see different. I have a new monitor, so give me one second. All right. So the Qs. We have a key support level here at 117.80. That's that key support level, okay? You got one, two, three. And look, also couldn't make it here, but that's another one. That level breaks, that's a big level to break. Okay, right now we're hitting resistance at 118.61. Okay, 118.61. Also 118.87. It's got one, two, three points of resistance there. Then we have a supply zone up here, right here, and our another key resistance level is 119.50. Okay, and we talked about the head and shoulders pattern. We got the shoulder, we got the head, we got the shoulder forming. Here's the neckline, 117.80. Break that, we should go lower. Okay, now caveat, big news, FOMC on Wednesday. So a lot of positions that, you know, I wouldn't, me personally, just as me, just personally, not a financial advisor, of course, but I don't have any positions on right now just because of, I don't know what's going to happen. Wednesday, I know what should happen with the FOMC, which should be the 75% basis point hike. However, I don't know how the market's going to react to it. It's probably priced in already. You know, I could see if we do 100 and it surprises everybody, that's a really bearish thing for the market. If he goes under with 50, that's dovish. Maybe you get a little kick up higher, which I don't see happening, but that's just my thought. Okay, so let's just get into Zoom profile. Okay, give me one sec here. Hope everybody's. Hope I'm being clear today. I know I still got a little bit of a stuffy nose, so I apologize if you hear sniffing. Trying to battle it. My nose is a battle. Um, all right, let's go into this market profile. All right, crude, man. Whew. Crude is getting hammered. Okay. Now we know the levels that I spoke about, right? So we're gonna go off those levels, right? All right. So price is at in the ES 38.60. Okay, 38.60. And we're inside the session of Friday. So don't know, because it's whenever you're inside a session doesn't give you a lot of information to go by. So I think a definite scenario could be we come down. Okay, we come down to Friday's lows, try to go lower, we can't. I think we could rip up higher. Okay, go right to 38.83, find some resistance here to come right back up here, maybe go into the gap. Okay, which is also the high of Friday in the supply zone, and I think we come right back down and we balance here. Okay, I think that's one scenario. That's very possible, right? Reason being, we have shorts down here. All this volume down here, they'll get squeezed if we get a nice move higher. They're short in the hole right now. This is not that this does not mean that I am bullish. This just means that, these shorts don't have great location right now if they don't get follow through. That's why. That's the reason for that scenario. Okay, let's go for another scenario. Okay. Another scenario could be too is, you know, the bearish one. Okay. I think we do this. I think we can come down again too to the lows on Friday. Come back up right here. Come up here, fail. Okay. Come back down, balance here a little bit, come down to 38.54, and then we break it and we go down to this gap, old gap down here, about 38.30. Okay. And of course, final scenario would be more like a game plan, would be like, okay, this might be a new range, and it might just be ping pong today. Meaning, forget about what moves happen in here, okay? It could be we go to the low here, you go long. We find ourselves back at these highs, maybe even into the gap a little bit. The 39.03, you're probably going to want to short. And we could potentially balance in here. And we could possibly bring the most traded price of the week down here, lower. Because we've already done that in the NASDAQ. Very highly likely scenario just because of the news coming on Wednesday. Okay? All right. Let's go to the NASDAQ. It's going to be very similar scenario. Very similar, okay? Now we do have this big 5-day node down here. Most traded price of the week, 118.20, okay? So that's a little bit of a big level, okay? But let's look at this, okay? We have that huge level of support at 117.80. Okay, so what I can see again happening, okay? Price is at in the NQ 118.48 right now. It's right here. I definitely can see one scenario happen. Coming down here, finding some support here, popping our head up to 118.61, getting a little resistance there, but popping up to 118.87, come right into this supply zone, right into this double top, might even poke its head above, and then we find sellers and we come back and we balance at 118.20. Okay, that's basically waiting for Wednesday. Of course, if we open, I still think we open, and we could open, come right up here, break those levels, come up to supply zone, come down, we can find ourselves starting to make a move lower, probably balance out here, and if we manage to come down to 117.80, break it, come back up, we're going lower. We're going to go lower. Okay, that's going to break that level. That should bring the ES with it lower too. I don't know if that's in the cards. Okay, I don't know. But that level's a pretty big level, an important level, okay? And lastly, we're in a range. It could just be a new range, right? So like I said earlier, come up to the 119.50. That's probably a short. Come down here to 117.80. We really can't find sellers. Extra sellers are probably going to want to go long. And that's balance, right? Let's wait for Wednesday. So we'll see. Hopefully that helped out everybody seeing what I'm seeing, possibly what could happen today. Please give me a like, give me subscribe. That would help me out. Hit the little notification button to get alerted when my next stream's gonna pop up. I usually try to do it around 8:25. Today I had a little something to take care of, so I apologize that I had to start a little later. But hopefully everybody is getting something from these videos. I wish everybody good luck today, and let's have a green day to everybody. Let's have a green day. It would be great, and I'll see everybody tomorrow.